Hello and welcome. I'm Mina and I'm very excited to have you here on Tidal Yoga, this online course where we explore the relationship between the menstrual cycle and our yoga practices. And, quite often when we talk about yoga and the menstrual cycle, it's kind of boiled down to the question whether we should practice yoga when we bleed. And although that's a very important question, and what you should avoid, or what you should focus on, etc., it's kind of just the tip of the iceberg of this whole relationship between the cycle in yoga and also women in yoga. So I wanted to create a format where we flow together through the whole cycle, and you have each 2 videos for each inner season. So for the time while you're bleeding, for your follicular phase, that would be your inner spring, your ovulation, that's your inner summer, the luteal phase, that's your inner fall, and then back to the winter. And we'll of course explore all of these things in depth during the course, but just so that you have an overview. And for each time within the cycle, for each inner season, you have 2 videos. So one video where you are moving a little bit more like a typical flow class, although these are of course very different in each and every step of the cycle. And then you have a more yin or restorative class where we focus more on stillness and also the different meridians that are more relevant throughout the inner season. Good. And then we finish it off with a meditation so we can integrate all of those different phases and different characters that might kind of emerge as you move through the cycle. Good. So the first few videos are more informative and you can skip them and you can dive right into the yoga practices. However, these videos might be interesting. So in one, we'll explore the history, but briefly, between yoga and women, and also menstrual cycle, and maybe answer the question why women are told not to practice during their period. And in another video, we're going to go through some basic principles of traditional Chinese medicine or Taoism, yin and yang, the different meridians, which might be interesting if you're new to yoga, new to yin practices, and also these concepts might help you kind of understand a little bit more the different movements that we go into throughout the cycle and throughout the different seasons. And I'll also have a video where I kind of explain my own relationship to the menstrual cycle, tracking how it's helped me, how it's helping me to deepen my yoga practice in some ways. So who could this course be for? So you might be someone who practices yoga regularly and would like to find a deeper connection to the menstrual cycle through this practice of yoga. You might be someone who's tracking the menstrual cycle and would like to deepen the relationship to the cycle through yoga by adding yoga as something that you can look at yourself with, or both of those things, or you might be curious in yoga as well as the menstrual cycle. And you might be on the pill. You might be on the pill and you feel that you would like to get in touch with a sense of cyclicality. So I think we live in a society which is very linear, which expects us to be the same all the time. However, all ancient wisdoms see a lot of wisdom and see a lot of sacredness in this cyclicality, which we see in the outside world through the seasons, through the moon cycles. So maybe you are on the pill and you feel that you want to be more in touch with your cycle, even if you're not, even if your bleeds are slightly different from what we would have if you're off of the pill. But maybe you can even sync up your bleeds with the new moon, for example, so that you feel that you're in touch with the moon and with yourself, and therefore you can feel into, through the stories that I'm telling with the practices that we are going through, that there is a sense of, birth and blossoming, and then a decline, and then a kind of going back into your womb, starting anew with the new one. Okay, and you might also be a trans woman, similar with, in that case, that you do not have a regular cycle on your own. However, you'd like to connect to this cyclicality of the feminine. And in this case, you can just look at the moon to tell you where you might be within your cycle, and maybe use that as a tool to create this ritual for yourself. There is a lot of pros also to being living cyclically, not always being linear and not always producing and going, but having a sense of birth and rebirth, times where you were more withdrawn, times where you're more productive. So those are the cases in which you might be really interested in this course. And the videos are not meant that you always have to practice those yang and yin practices during your cycle, but I think they are more like stories. They're yoga classes, obviously. However, when you practice them, I wanted you to have a feeling that you can kind of embody those seasons or those inner states or those inner moon phases, so that they become part of you, that they become like a vocabulary, that's something that you can connect to even without thinking so much. Oh, I'm in the inner fall, that means my energies are this and that. And on the other hand, if I'm in my inner spring, okay, that means that my energies feel like when I practice that yoga class. So there are more little tools of storytelling and embodied knowledge and embodied learning than, strict classes that you need to follow every cycle.